You still want those things. You just don't expect them anymore. And that's a strange feeling when you first notice it, because on the surface, your life looks fine. You go to work, the week happens, a few bills show up, you answer whatever needs answering, and somehow another month disappears. You keep moving. Nobody looking at you would think anything is wrong, not even you. In fact, if someone asked what you wanted from life now, you might shrug. Nothing crazy, nothing special. You don't need much. You don't have big dreams anymore. You don't really care where things go. At least that's what you tell yourself. Then somebody says something or does something, and for a second, you feel it again. You see someone buy a plane ticket somewhere they've always wanted to visit. A friend talks about starting something new. Someone gets engaged, moves cities, changes careers, falls in love. And for a second, something inside you reacts. Not jealousy, something quieter. A feeling you immediately push away because it feels childish, because you're an adult, because you've learned not to get carried away. So you smile, you nod, you tell yourself you're happy where you are, and maybe you are. Mostly. But sometimes late at night, when the day finally stops making demands, another thought appears. A thought you usually don't stay with very long. What happened to the version of you that used to look forward to things? Maybe nothing dramatic happened. Maybe that's why it's so hard to notice. Nobody remembers the day they stopped looking forward to things. There wasn't a decision. There wasn't a failure big enough to explain it. One day, you were excited about the weekend. The next weekend felt ordinary. Then another one, then another, and eventually having free time stopped feeling like freedom. It just felt like time, not the version that was younger, not the version that was naive, the version that expected life to surprise them, the version that believed certain things would eventually happen, the version that still had unfinished sentences about the future, because somewhere along the way, those sentences got shorter, then smaller, then quieter, until one day you stopped noticing they were gone. And the strange part is that nobody talks about this. Nobody notices this part. People notice disappointment. They notice failure. They notice when things fall apart. What they don't notice is what happens afterward, the way you stop getting your hopes up without even realizing you're doing it. It happens so gradually you never see it happening. You just wake up one day and realize you haven't looked forward to anything in a very long time. Not because you're unhappy, because expecting things started feeling expensive. You see it in ordinary moments. Someone asks where you'd like to be in 5 years. You laugh. You give a practical answer, a safe answer, an answer that can't embarrass you later. You don't talk about what you'd actually want, not because you've matured, because you've learned what disappointment feels like. And disappointment leaves fingerprints, not dramatic ones, small ones. The promotion that never came, the relationship that almost worked, the move you never made, the business idea that stayed in a notebook, the call that never happened, the person who never chose you, the timing that was always slightly wrong. None of those moments destroyed you. And that's what makes it strange. They weren't catastrophic. You survived every single one. But survival isn't always free. Sometimes the price gets paid later. In expectations, you start becoming careful. Careful about hope. Careful about excitement. Careful about wanting things too much. After a while, wanting something starts feeling expensive. So without realizing it, you begin negotiating with yourself. Maybe I don't need that. Maybe it wasn't important anyway. Maybe I'm happier keeping things simple. Maybe I've outgrown it. Maybe I've changed. And maybe you have. But sometimes what looks like acceptance is just adaptation. Sometimes those aren't the same thing. And some of that is true. People do change. Priorities evolve. Life becomes different. But not everything you stopped wanting disappeared because you genuinely stopped wanting it. Some things disappeared because expecting them started hurting. That's a harder truth because it forces you to ask an uncomfortable question. Did you actually stop wanting those things, or did you just stop believing they would happen? Most people never ask themselves that. They simply call it acceptance. Acceptance sounds healthy. Acceptance sounds mature. That's why it becomes such a good hiding place, because once you call something acceptance, you stop investigating it. You stop questioning it. You stop asking what created it. Acceptance sounds peaceful, which is why it's such a convincing story, especially when you're tired, especially when disappointment has accumulated for years. Especially when you've spent enough time watching life refuse to follow the timeline you imagined. After a while, acceptance becomes the answer. Why didn't it happen? Acceptance. Why didn't you try? Acceptance. Why don't you want it anymore? Acceptance. And at first, it even feels good. There's relief in expecting less, relief in not getting excited, relief in not caring so much, relief in not needing life to be different. But relief and peace aren't always the same thing. That's where it stops feeling so simple, because real peace feels open. What many people call peace feels closed. One expands, the other shrinks. One makes the future feel possible. The other makes the future feel smaller. And the difference is easy to miss because both can look calm from the outside. From the outside, everything looks normal. You seem settled. You seem realistic. You seem fine. Nobody can see what you're slowly stopping yourself from hoping for. The outside looks identical. The inside doesn't. Eventually, it starts showing up everywhere. You stop planning things, not because you're busy, because planning requires belief. You stop imagining certain outcomes, not because they're impossible, because imagining them feels unnecessary. You stop getting excited about opportunities, not because they don't matter, because excitement feels premature. You become cautious with anticipation itself, as if expecting good things is somehow irresponsible, as if protecting yourself from disappointment has become a full-time habit. And then one day, something happens. A friend invites you somewhere months away, a concert, a trip, an event, something that used to excite you. And your first reaction isn't anticipation, it's calculation. You wonder if it'll actually happen. You wonder if something will go wrong. You wonder if there's a reason not to care yet. You don't realize it, but your relationship with the future has changed. The future used to feel different. Now it mostly feels like something to manage. And that's when something important disappears. Not desire, something deeper. You still want the thing. You just stop building your life around the possibility that it could happen. What disappears isn't the desire, it's the prediction. The belief that the thing you wanted might actually happen. The dream didn't die. The expectation did. That realization lands differently when you really sit with it, because suddenly a lot of your behavior starts making sense. The restaurant you've wanted to try, the skill you've wanted to learn, the city you've wanted to visit, the relationship you've wanted to find, the version of yourself you've wanted to become. None of them completely vanished. You just stopped building toward them. You stopped expecting your effort to meet an outcome. So the future quietly got smaller. Not overnight. One disappointment at a time. One adjustment at a time. One lowered expectation at a time. Until eventually the future became a place you managed rather than imagined. And that's exhausting. Not because wanting things is exhausting, because carrying around abandoned expectations is exhausting. Every abandoned possibility still takes up space. Every compromise still leaves residue. Every dream that was never officially buried continues existing in the background, not loudly, quietly. They never fully leave. They stay in the background, not demanding attention, just never completely gone. That's why people can feel exhausted even when nothing terrible is happening. They're carrying years of emotional downsizing, years of telling themselves not to expect too much, years of shrinking the future to match what feels safe, Years of confusing emotional withdrawal with wisdom. And eventually it becomes automatic. Someone mentions a possibility. Your brain immediately searches for reasons it won't work. Someone talks about excitement. You search for realistic expectations. Someone imagines a better future. You quietly prepare for disappointment. Not because you're negative, because you've trained yourself to survive disappointment before it arrives. The problem is that survival strategy never turns off. It follows you everywhere. It follows you into relationships, into opportunities, into goals, into ordinary Tuesday afternoons. After enough years, it starts feeling normal. And after enough years, you stop noticing you're doing it. You simply call yourself realistic. You call yourself practical. You call yourself mature. The problem is that acceptance and exhaustion can look exactly the same. Both are calm. Both stop fighting. Both stop talking about what they wanted. From the outside, they look almost identical. The difference is invisible. Acceptance happens after you've made peace with reality. Exhaustion happens after reality disappoints you enough times. But underneath all those words, another reality exists. You're tired, not physically, not even emotionally in the dramatic sense. You're tired of carrying expectations that collapsed one piece at a time. You're tired of assuming the answer before anything has happened. You're tired of protecting yourself from futures that haven't happened yet. And maybe that's why certain moments hit so hard. The moments when you accidentally remember what anticipation felt like. The moments when excitement appears before caution can stop it. The moments when you briefly imagine something better. Because for a second, you remember that the desire never disappeared. It was still there, waiting underneath all the adjustments, waiting underneath all the explanations, waiting underneath all the stories you told yourself about not needing much. And that's the uncomfortable truth. The desire survived. Little by little, you stopped expecting life to meet you there. Every disappointment taught you to lower it a little further. Every unmet hope made the future slightly smaller. Every adjustment felt reasonable at the time, until eventually you mistook the absence of expectation for acceptance. After a while, it all started feeling like the same thing: peace, wisdom, acceptance. Maybe it wasn't. And because the change happened gradually, it felt normal. That's what makes it so difficult to see. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to stop expecting good things. It happens quietly. Over years, over ordinary disappointments, over countless moments that seem too small to matter, until one day you realize something strange. The things you tell yourself you don't want anymore still have the power to hurt, still have the power to trigger longing, still have the power to make you pause, which means they never really left. You just stopped expecting life to meet you there. And maybe that's why the exhaustion never fully goes away, because it takes work, more work than people realize. Always reminding yourself not to hope too much. You have to keep explaining to yourself why less is enough, why smaller is smarter, why not wanting feels safer. And after a while, that explanation becomes tiring, not because it's false, because part of you knows it's incomplete. Part of you remembers, and every now and then, something still gets through. Even after all the adjustments, even after all the disappointments, the desire is still there. Quieter now, harder to hear, but still there. And sometimes late at night, after the emails have been answered, after the dishes are done, after the day finally runs out of demands, you catch yourself looking toward the future for a second, not expecting anything, just looking. And in that brief moment before caution returns, you realize something uncomfortable. The peace you've been protecting might not be peace at all, because peace doesn't ask you to stop wanting things. It doesn't ask you to shrink the future. It doesn't ask you to expect less. Exhaustion does. The future got smaller, not because you wanted less, because disappointment taught you that expecting more was expensive. And sometimes, what you've been calling acceptance is simply exhaustion that stopped arguing.